The story begins with a small girl being called in to meet Duke Bose. The Duke praises her, saying she is the best trainee in her group, and she answers with quiet humility. He then tells her he has chosen her for her first great mission. But before anything else, he says she needs a real name. He gives her the name Aisha, which catches her completely off guard. Aisha accepts the name and stands still, waiting for her mission. The Duke explains that her task is to sneak into the House of Crest by pretending to be their lost daughter. He assures her that no one would ever think a 5-year-old child could be a spy. Aisha promises that if she ever comes close to being exposed, she will take her own life for the sake of the kingdom and for him. The Duke warns her that Duke Crow is very suspicious of everyone, but he believes in her ability and tells her to become a child that the man will love. As Aisha turns to leave, the Duke calmly says he expects to hear good news soon. Aisha begins to think about the 5 years she spent being trained like a weapon for the Bose family. She realizes that with this name and this mission, she is almost walking straight toward a painful death. It turns out she has been reborn into the body of a small character who was meant to be executed for pretending to be a noble daughter. She understands that she is now inside a fantasy story called The Sword of Judgment. The story follows a battle between two cruel families, the Bose family, known for their poison abilities, and the Crew family, known for their ice powers. The main character of the story is an unwanted child from the Bose family who rises above everything and brings peace to the kingdoms. Aisha feels bitter about her fate, since she was raised as a spy in such a harsh world. She slowly figures out she is inside the story by noticing clues like bows and spy tools. She could not even tell who she used to be because trainees were never given names. All she ever knew was the pain of being trained as a spy. She remembers the cruel lessons and the punishments she had to go through. During those painful times, she used to dream about living a simple and free life, even if it meant being poor. When she was finally called and given both a name and a mission, she realized she was only a background character meant to die. Strangely, she even starts to miss those harsh training days, because at least death was not certain back then. She feels surprised at how calm she is now. It seems unfair that she was raised as a spy only to die before the real hero even appears. She thinks about her target, Duke Crust, the main villain of the story. He is known as a cold and cruel man. After losing his family in a war against monsters, he became even more violent, searching for them like someone who had lost his mind. Later, the guilt of not being able to protect them became his greatest weakness. Because of this, he shut himself inside his castle, wore a black mask, and stayed away from everyone. Aisha accepts that she must become the fake daughter of such a dangerous man. While getting ready, she notices that all she owns are a few torn clothes and 3 small bottles of poison. She realizes the only thing the Bose family ever gave her was poison to end her own life. She feels regret, thinking about how both in her past life and her current one, she has always been sent away with nothing. The trip reminds her of her old life. Back then, she was an orphan who trusted the wrong adults who told her to just endure everything. She worked herself too hard and ended up dying from it. She sees the same pattern now, where she is about to die again, just by obeying orders. Even after learning that she was not part of a happy story and had become a spy, she still held on to a small hope. She believed that if she could just survive until she grew up, she might find freedom one day. Now she decides it is too soon to give up. One painful death is already more than enough. She begins to think about her choices. She considers 3 paths in front of her. She quickly throws away the first 2. Pretending to be the fake daughter would only lead to death, and exposing herself as a spy would also lead to instant death. With only one option left, she walks up to one of the knights. She asks him to take her to the Duke, her voice steady because she trusts what she knows from the story. Her last gamble is simple but risky. She says she knows where the real missing young lady is. She openly declares that she plans to betray the Bose family and join the Crust family instead. The knight looks at her with doubt and warns her not to lie. But Aisha does not back down. To prove she is serious, she shares a secret about the Crust family, a hidden tradition where direct blood children are sent to an ice cave right after birth. She claims she heard it from the young lady herself, who learned it from her mother. even though, in truth, she only knows this from the book. The knights begin to believe her, thinking she must have a connection to the young lady to know something so secret. Soon, a report comes in about a child claiming to know where the missing daughter is. One knight agrees to take her to the Duke and tells her to keep up with his speed. Aisha tightens her resolve, knowing the real challenge is just beginning. Her plan is clear. She will use what she knows to help Duke Crust find his daughter, and in return, she will ask for safety and support. Finding the daughter gives her something valuable to trade, even if her true identity is revealed later. After managing to get inside the palace, she prepares herself for the next step, which is speaking directly with the Duke. But just then, a woman named Dorothy stops the knight who is leading her. The knight explains that the child claims to know where the young lady is, and asks Dorothy to keep watch over her while he informs the Duke. As Dorothy grabs her arm, Aisha feels a sudden shock run through her. She notices the woman's red hair and green eyes, and realizes who she is. This is Dorothy. Aisha suddenly remembers that she was always going to run into her here at the palace. Dorothy finds it strange that Aisha's mission seems different from what it should have been. Aisha recognizes Dorothy as the first and only Bose spy who ever succeeded in entering the Crest house, a dangerous villain in the story. Dorothy senses that something is wrong and looks ready to draw a weapon at any moment. Instead, she decides to slowly find out the truth, quietly threatening Aisha. Aisha begins to feel her hope fading, thinking her plan is about to fail before it even begins. Dorothy warns her that she will get rid of her immediately if she does not answer her questions. In a sudden moment of panic, Aisha pushes Dorothy away. Dorothy shouts angrily for her to stop, but Aisha runs without looking back. As she runs for her life, Aisha moves as fast as she can, trying to think of a way out while buying time. While rushing through the palace, she sees someone wearing a hat and quickly calls out for help. But before she can stop, she trips and falls straight into the arms of a stranger. The man, wearing a mask and showing red eyes, asks who she is and how she got inside. Dorothy is already catching up, so Aisha knows there is no time to explain anything. In that moment, she clutches the man's cloak tightly. She whispers a quick apology and asks him to let her hide behind him for just a moment from the frightening person chasing her. The man turns his head just as Dorothy calls out for the child. Dorothy looks around and then notices the masked man. She greets him respectfully as Mr. Gardner, while Aisha stays hidden behind him, trembling. Aisha begins to worry about what she has done by suddenly running into him like this. Dorothy asks the gardener if he has seen a 5-year-old girl. She explains that the child is suspicious, appearing out of nowhere and claiming to know where the missing daughter is. The mood becomes heavy when she mentions the young lady, and Aisha can feel how deeply loyal the people in the palace are. Dorothy continues asking questions, describing a blonde child. Aisha feels panic rise inside her, afraid the man will hand her over. The man calmly says he has not seen any child, and tells Dorothy to search somewhere else. Aisha feels shocked and relieved at the same time as Dorothy finally leaves. The man then tells her it is safe to come out, and she quietly thanks him. After she settles down, the man looks at her closely and asks if she truly knows where the young lady is. He slowly kneels in front of her, asking her to tell the truth and warning her not to joke about something so serious. She tells him she used to live in the same orphanage as the young lady, but she was the only one who managed to escape. The man, clearly moved, quickly asks where the orphanage is, while Aisha quietly thanks him for helping her. Still, she shakes her head and says she cannot share the location with anyone except the Duke himself, because she is afraid dangerous people might find out and cause harm. She explains that in return for giving the location, she plans to ask the Duke for protection. She stresses how badly she needs someone strong and reliable to keep her safe. The man listens carefully, then nods in understanding before standing up. His sudden movement surprises her, and she wonders where he is going. He simply tells her to follow him, saying he will take her to meet the Duke. As she walks behind him, she cannot help but think how lucky she was to meet someone so kind and honest, someone who believed her story without much doubt. Still, her small body struggles to keep up with his long steps, and she quickly grows tired. Wanting to slow him down, she tries to start a conversation. She asks if he has any children, and he looks slightly caught off guard. She quickly apologizes for asking something so personal, explaining she only said it because he seems good with children. The man avoids the question and instead tells her not to feel nervous when meeting the Duke. He advises her to simply say what she knows and assures her that the Duke has the power to grant her request. Soon, they arrive in front of a huge door. Aisha remembers that the Duke of Crust is the main villain of the story, someone feared by many. She also recalls that before losing his family, he was once praised as a hero who protected people from monsters. Thinking about that, she wonders if he might still be someone she can reason with, especially since the gardener trusted him enough to bring her here. Even so, she cannot stop the nervous feeling growing inside her as she waits. A man wearing a monocle opens the door and asks who she is. The sudden question catches her off guard, but she quickly gathers her courage and says she is here to see the Duke. She asks him to inform the Duke that a child who knows where the missing young lady is has come to meet him. The assistant apologizes and says the Duke is not in the palace at the moment. Just then, a voice from inside the room orders the assistant to let her in, shocking him. The assistant quickly expresses relief, asking the Duke where he has been and how everyone had been searching for him, which leaves Aisha confused. Duke Crew calmly says he will hear everything inside. As Aisha steps into the room, she is immediately overwhelmed by his strong presence and large figure. Even though his face is covered with black cloth, his aura alone feels heavy. The Duke wastes no time and asks her directly if she knows where his daughter is and where she is now. Aisha steadies herself, reminding herself that she has practiced this moment many times in her mind. Before giving him the location, she asks him to grant her a favor first. Surrounded by darkness, the Duke swears in the name of the Cree family that he will grant it. But Aisha calmly says she would prefer a written contract instead of just words. The Duke's voice turns sharp as he asks if she is saying she does not trust the oath of the ducal House of Crust. She feels the pressure coming from him, strong and frightening, but she forces herself to stay calm. She explains that as an orphan, she has no one to rely on. Because of that, she cannot trust promises that can change, only a legal contract that cannot be broken. In her mind, she thinks about how she was raised as a spy and how no one would care if she died. That is why words mean nothing to her. She adds that she will not ask for anything unreasonable because she understands her position. This is simply her way of making sure she survives. After a short pause, the Duke agrees, but says he will add his own condition. He declares that if his daughter is not at the place she mentions, she will be executed. Aisha accepts the condition without any hesitation. The Duke nods and tells her to state her request. Her only request is simple. She asks him to assign her a legal guardian who will protect her until she becomes an adult. The Duke calls for his assistant and orders him to prepare a contract right away. Aisha feels a wave of relief as she realizes her plan has worked. The assistant, however, looks unsure and questions if the Duke is serious, thinking the terms of the contract are too harsh for a child who is only 5 years old. The Duke calmly says he only said that to test her reaction, which leaves the assistant confused. The assistant then asks if he truly believes what the child said. The Duke answers that he does believe her, but points out that the real problem is that the location she gave is inside the Bose duchy. The assistant looks shocked and quickly reminds him that Duke Bose has already given very strict conditions for any visit. He explains that Duke Crow must come alone without any knights, bring only 2 companions, and even hand over the plains of crime lands. The assistant argues that going alone into enemy land is far too dangerous, especially with all the tension between both sides. He pleads with the Duke to at least enter secretly, but the Duke refuses and decides to accept all of Duke Bose's conditions. He says this is the fastest way to reach the Bose duchy. He declares that he does not care if it is enemy territory or even a battlefield, as long as he can find his daughter. Then he orders his assistant to inform Duke Bose that he will visit in 1 week before walking away. The assistant lets out a deep sigh, thinking about how the Duke always loses his calm whenever his family is involved, while everyone else has already lost hope. He quietly admits that most people believe the Duke's missing family is already dead. Still, he cannot ignore how suspicious the child seems and begins to wonder if Duke Bose used her to trick his master into walking into a trap. Wanting to be careful, he decides to look into the girl himself. Meanwhile, Aisha hears the servants whispering about her and about the Duke's risky plan to go into enemy territory. She feels surprised by how quickly the news has spread and notices how the servants move away when they see her. She begins to worry that someone might soon start suspecting her. Just then, Dorothy suddenly appears behind her, saying she has also heard everything. With a mocking tone, Dorothy congratulates Aisha for successfully leading Duke Crow straight into the Beau's duchy. Aisha thinks quietly that she never expected him to make an official request like this, since she believed he would either sneak in or attack with soldiers instead. Dorothy comments that skilled spies are truly different, able to achieve in one move what she could not do in 6 years. She then grabs Aisha and says that because of her actions, she has now become useless to Duke Bose and will soon be thrown away. In her mind, Dorothy realizes that everything is going against her plan. With Duke Crust heading into the Bose duchy alone, she is sure he will die. She believes Duke Bose will not miss the chance to kill a famous hero, even if it brings shame, and that he will do it quietly, so no one knows. Because of this, both she and Aisha, who have now become useless, will be discarded. Thinking her life is already over, Dorothy decides that taking someone with her would not be such a bad idea. As Dorothy gets ready to attack her, Aisha suddenly shouts that she has an idea. She forces herself to stay calm, believing there must still be a way out. She notices that Dorothy has no idea about the contract she made with the Duke, which means Dorothy cannot be sure she truly betrayed the Bose family. Aisha realizes that the only way for both her and the Duke to survive is to come up with a plan quickly. Her idea is to tell Duke Crow that Dorothy is a spy, which would give him a reason to bring guards and also remove the danger Dorothy poses to her. But to make this work, she knows she must first deceive Dorothy by mixing truth with lies. She tells Dorothy that they are actually in the same situation and asks her to think calmly. She explains that if Duke Bose plans to get rid of Dorothy to cut all loose ends, then it makes sense he will get rid of her as well. So, instead of enemies, they are both people stuck in the same situation. Dorothy quickly rejects this idea, calling it nonsense. Aisha then explains honestly that pretending to be the fake daughter was too dangerous, so she chose a different path by acting as a child who knows the location. But she lies about one thing, saying she prepared fake proof that the young lady is in an orphanage inside the Bose duchy to gain the Duke's trust, though she never expected him to act so quickly. She insists that there is still a way for both of them to survive, because Duke Bose values results. She suggests that they should take down Duke Crow themselves before he even arrives. Before she can say more, Dorothy cuts her off sharply and warns her to stay quiet if she does not want to die. Dorothy grabs her arm and tells her to follow, and Aisha quickly realizes her plan is working. Dorothy pulls her along and speaks with a mocking tone, asking why she does not just put up a notice telling Duke Crow about their plan to kill him. She complains that this is exactly why she did not agree with sending a 5-year-old child who cannot stay quiet. Aisha notices Dorothy's fist is tight and figures out that the more she talks, the more nervous she really is. Keeping up her act, Aisha speaks loudly, saying she will be the one to lure Duke Crow in, knowing that people do not think clearly when they feel pressure. She points out that since she looks like a small child, the Duke will not suspect anything. She calmly explains her idea. She will ask for a private meeting with him, and once he is alone, Dorothy can finish him off. After that, they can escape to another country. Aisha stresses that if they succeed, they will both survive. She continues to press on Dorothy's fear, telling her that even if the plan fails, Dorothy will be safe as long as she stays silent about everything. Dorothy looks at her with doubt and asks how someone like her plans to get a private meeting with the Duke. Aisha answers with confidence, saying the Duke will agree right away if she tells him she has information about his daughter. She offers her own life as proof, saying she will be the only one to suffer if things go wrong. After thinking for a moment, Dorothy finally agrees, deciding that since her life is already at risk, this plan cannot make things worse. Aisha feels a quiet sense of victory as she realizes she has convinced her. Still, Dorothy warns her that she does not fully trust her and says she will stay close to her from now on. She makes it clear that if she dies, Aisha will die with her. That night, Aisha lies awake, thinking deeply. She realizes that Dorothy is actually the weakness of the Bose family, and if she exposes her, Duke Crow will gain the advantage. If the Duke holds power, then Duke Bose will not be able to act freely. Still, she struggles with how she can prove Dorothy is a spy. When Dorothy steps away for a short moment, Aisha quickly takes her chance to act. She remembers that spies must always send reports to their masters. She also knows that Bose spies write secret messages on their clothes, using a special solution connected to their powers. By dipping the clothes in ice water, hidden writing appears. When she does this, she sees the message that reveals Duke Crust's visit without guards. Now she has real proof that Dorothy is a spy. She knows she cannot just leave the evidence lying around, so she prepares to return everything before Dorothy comes back. Just as she is about to leave, the gardener suddenly appears and asks sharply what she is doing. Aisha is startled to see him and feels her heart jump. She had planned to leave quietly after planting the evidence, and now she feels her bad luck has caught up with her. Seeing how loyal he is, she quickly tries to think of an excuse. She says in a soft voice that she was just drawing a map at night, though even she knows it sounds childish. For a moment, she thinks he believed her, but then she feels a strange tension, as if something bad might happen. She becomes sure that he has seen through everything. However, instead of questioning her, the man calmly brings the basket he is holding closer to her, leaving her confused. To her surprise, he simply asks if she would like a sandwich. She sits down with him, thinking that maybe he did not suspect her because she looks like a child. She thanks him for helping her earlier, and apologizes for being so shaken at that time. The man then notices that the clothes she was washing are far too big for someone her size. He asks why she is washing clothes that are not hers, and wonders if the maid who chased her earlier is treating her badly. Aisha quickly makes up a story, saying she upset the maid by calling her auntie and tried to fix things by helping with the laundry. She also apologizes for lying before, explaining that she was afraid of being scolded for touching things that did not belong to her. She bows her head and asks for his forgiveness. He tells her not to do something like that again, warning that her actions could damage the reputation of the Crust family if others saw. As she listens, she begins to wonder if he is actually worried about her. The more she looks at him, the more she notices that even though he seems cold on the outside, there is a quiet warmth about him. She then asks if he brought the sandwich just for her, adding that back at the orphanage it was hard for her to even get a single piece of bread. The man quietly figures out that the place she came from must not have fed her well at all. She tells him she has never tasted anything this good before, and he gently tells her to eat as much as she wants. As she eats, she feels a kind of warmth she has not felt in a very long time. She remembers how he trusted her and protected her from the very first moment they met. Slowly, she realizes that even if he is only a gardener, he still belongs to the Crust family. And if she can make him her ally, she might be able to gain the Duke's protection too. She begins to understand that what she really needs is not just someone strong, but someone kind and warm like him. She even starts to think that if he became her guardian, she might finally be able to feel true happiness. After dealing with the problem of Dorothy, she calls out to him and carefully asks if he has ever thought about having a child. The man repeats her question, and she suddenly feels the air around them grow cold. His expression changes, and he answers in a quiet, firm voice that he does not need another child. The word another makes her realize he already has one. He then tells her to stand up, and she understands why he avoided her earlier question. She does not know what happened in his past, but she can see a sadness in him that he tries to hide. She feels a little disappointed, thinking how safe she would have felt if someone like him became her guardian, but she quickly scolds herself for being weak. She reminds herself that survival is all that matters now. Just then, Dorothy suddenly bursts into the room, shouting her name and asking angrily where she had been. Aisha calmly replies that she was just having a snack with the gardener, which makes Dorothy narrow her eyes in suspicion. With a bright smile, Aisha lies and says she was only trying to get close to him to gather useful information, reminding herself not to chase after small moments of happiness. Dorothy tells her to explain her plan clearly from now on. The scene then shifts to a private meeting with the masked Duke. Aisha recalls the plan she told Dorothy, that she would request a private meeting by saying she remembered something important. She had explained that the Duke was desperate for any information about his daughter, so it would not be hard to get him alone. The Duke looks at her and asks what kind of secret information is so important that it needed a private meeting. Aisha tells him that the young lady once shared something important with her, and that the conversation happened in a closed room with only her and Dorothy present. As she speaks, she continues to play out the plan she told Dorothy. Once they are alone, Dorothy would move in to kill the Duke. Then, in the confusion, they would escape and hide, believing that Duke Bose would ignore them once the mission was complete. But in truth, Aisha knows something Dorothy does not. Dorothy will not succeed, because the real target of the attack is not the Duke, but herself. At the exact moment Dorothy moves, Aisha suddenly steps forward and throws herself in front of the dagger. The Duke calls out her name in shock, while Dorothy stands frozen, asking why she would do something like that. The Duke quickly shouts for help, warning everyone that there is an assassin. As Aisha feels the pain, she thinks about how her training helped her avoid a fatal injury, though it still hurts badly. She knows the plan is moving just as she expected. Dorothy looks at her with burning anger, while Aisha gives a small smile, realizing her plan has worked. The story then goes back 5 years earlier, when huge waves of monsters covered the land. Humanity was forced into a desperate fight to survive, and many places were destroyed. In the middle of all the fear, a hero appeared. His name was Duke Calyps. Using the ice power passed down through his family, he defeated countless monsters and built a massive wall to protect the land. People began to feel hope again, and after 5 long years of war, humanity finally won. The Duke returned as a hero, praised by the emperor, respected by nobles, and loved by the people. But when he came back, he was met with terrible news. His beloved family had disappeared without a trace. In just one day, Duke Crow lost everything. He searched desperately for them, but he could not find even a single clue. As time passed, a deep madness slowly began to grow inside him. He started to question the meaning of everything he had done, since all he ever wanted was to protect a place where his family could live safely. He never thought that after fighting so hard, the end would leave him with nothing at all. He feels like he is no longer in a state where anyone should see him, and he starts to think that the titles of hero and shield mean nothing anymore. In his own eyes, he is just a coward who cannot even show his face without hiding behind a mask. He feels tired of everything. Tired of waiting for news about his family when he does not even know if they are alive. He is exhausted from pretending to be fine, from hiding his feelings, and from carrying the heavy duty of leading the duchy. At that moment, he decides he has had enough. He feels it is time to end everything. But just as he is about to take his own life, Aisha suddenly appears and asks for help. She runs to him, hugs him tightly, and begs him to hide her from a frightening person chasing her. In his thoughts, the Duke admits that he knew from the very start that Aisha was a spy. For many years, his family had been enemies with the Bose family, and he understood them well. He knew about their poison abilities, their skill in creating lies, their spies, and even how they sent messages. Because of that, he could not help but doubt her from the moment he saw her. Then, in the laundry room, he became completely sure that this small child was a spy sent by the Bose family. Even so, something about her actions made him hesitate. He wondered why she would go so far, because through their talks and the contract they made, she seemed more honest than anyone he had seen, especially in how strongly she held on to her life. He could not tell if this was just another plan from Duke Bose, or if she truly wanted to betray him and seek protection. In the end, because of her, he now has a solid reason to lead his knights straight into the Bose duchy. So, he decides to keep watching her a little longer. Aisha slowly wakes up and sees the Duke sitting beside her. She wonders how long she has been unconscious. The Duke scolds her, telling her she was too reckless. He explains that if the blade had been even a little off, it would have torn through her body and killed her instantly. Hearing this, she feels relieved, realizing her plan actually worked. She knows she must be careful with her words now. She starts by reminding him of his promise to protect her, but before she can say more, the Duke cuts her off. He tells her plainly that he already knows she is a spy from the Bose family. He tells her to stop pretending, and adds that the woman who attacked her is named Dorothy. He also explains that the maid had been gathering proof that Aisha was a spy, showing that there was no trust between them at all. Aisha suddenly understands that Dorothy was not disappearing for missions, but was secretly collecting evidence against her. She feels frustrated with herself for not seeing it earlier. She realizes that if Dorothy had exposed her first, her identity would have been completely revealed. That is why she had no choice but to risk everything and take that stab for the Duke. She believed that if everyone saw a small child risk her life to protect him, Dorothy's claims would not be believed. But she never expected that Dorothy had been building a case against her as well. Now, she feels like everything is over. With her heart full of fear, she quietly asks if she is going to die too. She tries to stay calm, but inside she is panicking. The Duke gently places his hand on her head, calming her down. He tells her to relax and hands her a document, asking her to read it. He explains that their contract is still valid and that he is the only one who knows she is a spy. He assures her there is no reason to panic or be afraid. He promises that if his daughter is truly where she said, he will arrange for her to be adopted by a Viscount's family. He reminds her again that he knew the truth about her from the beginning. When she asks why he is helping her, he simply says it is because she saved him by taking that blow. He adds that she has saved his life twice now, so he owes her. Because of that, he feels he should give her a chance. Hearing this, she thanks him with all her heart. He tells her to stop talking so much and to get some rest. After stopping the attack, she has now become known as the small hero who saved the Duke. She starts to wonder if it is even right for her to be treated so gently at her age. Still, she decides to enjoy this short moment of peace, knowing deep down that she still has to find the young lady if she wants to keep living like this. After the Dorothy incident, Duke Crow receives a formal apology from Duke Bose and then leaves for the kingdom of Doktia with 50 knights, saying he does not trust them. Before leaving, he allows Aisha to stay in the castle until a proper guardian is found for her. Even so, she feels a growing pressure, knowing she cannot stay like this forever and must quickly find a way to survive. She tries to keep herself busy by helping one of the maids hang the laundry. The maid notices she seems distracted, so Aisha casually asks if the gardener is off today. The maid looks confused and says she is not sure who she means, but maybe the person is taking a break since the Duke is away. Hearing this, Aisha remembers how, while she was stuck in bed recovering, the gardener would visit her often. She recalls how surprised she was when he first came to check on her and asked how she was feeling. From him, she learned that Duke Crew had personally asked him to take care of her, and thanks to him, she did not feel lonely during her recovery. She remembers telling him that she no longer thought the Duke was a scary person, and that she might have misunderstood him before. When he asked her why she thought that, she simply said it was because the Duke trusted and forgave her even after her big mistake. When he asked what mistake she meant, she playfully said it was a secret between her and the Duke. From that moment, the gardener became someone special to her. He was the first adult who truly helped her and showed her kindness. But the moment the Duke left, he disappeared without a trace. She starts to wonder if he might be upset because she did not tell him the secret and wishes he had at least said goodbye. As she looks around, she notices a happy group of palace staff talking and laughing together like a family. Seeing that makes her wish she had something like that too. She remembers that the gardener mentioned having a child, so she assumes he might have gone on a trip with his family, which makes her feel a little jealous. She quietly wishes she could have a family like that. Suddenly, a maid calls out to her, telling her it is time to get ready. Aisha quickly realizes she cannot sit around feeling sad, because today is an important day. Today is the day she will be introduced to the Freya Viscount family. When she meets them, the couple greets her warmly and tells her not to feel nervous. She introduces herself politely with perfect manners. They are surprised by how well she behaves and wonder if the Duke personally taught her, while she thinks to herself that all of this came from her spy training. She tells them she studied hard on her own just to meet them, which impresses them even more. They ask her how old she is, and she answers that she is 5. The Viscount then asks if she knows anything about their family. Aisha prepares herself for this important moment, knowing she has memorized everything about them. She confidently tells them that they earned their noble title, even though they were once commoners, thanks to their farming skills. She explains that their land is called Frendia, a rich place known for growing wheat. She then boldly says that her dream is to learn farming and work hard with her own hands if they choose to adopt her. She even adds that she is ready to marry in the future for the sake of the family and hopes to help build the future of Freya. After saying all this, she wonders if she has gone too far, thinking this is exactly how a perfectly prepared child would act. She becomes confused when their expressions suddenly change. They thank her for learning so much about their family and say they now understand why Duke Crow spoke so highly of her. Aisha starts to worry that she may have made a mistake and thinks about how she can win them over. Suddenly, she jumps up and tells Lady Freya that she even prepared a poem for her because she heard she loves poetry. Just as she is about to continue, the headmaid interrupts and announces that a message has arrived from the Duke. The couple becomes excited, thinking it must be good news, maybe that the young lady has been found. But the headmaid sadly tells them that the young lady was not found. She explains that nothing was discovered at the orphanage or nearby places, and that the Duke is already on his way back. Hearing this, Aisha feels completely crushed. Meanwhile, Duke Crew arrives at the Andra swamp inside the Bose Duchy. As he looks around, he realizes the area has never been touched by humans. A heavy thought crosses his mind that if his daughter was truly brought here, then her chances of surviving are almost zero. He says there is nothing left anymore and wonders how he is even supposed to remember Eve. With a heavy heart, he orders his men to retreat. In his mind, he feels like he has completely lost his reason to keep living. He thinks that everything should just end here, believing that ending his life might be the only way to pay for all his sins. Meanwhile, Aisha realizes that the original story has changed completely because the girl's body was supposed to be found at the orphanage. She begins to wonder if her actions caused the story to shift and remembers that the Duke will return soon. She comes to a painful conclusion. The only reason the Duke kept her secret as a spy was because she gave him a location for his daughter, and because of their contract. But now that the girl is not there, she is nothing but a burden with no place in his home. That makes her a target to be removed, and she realizes that this time, she is truly going to die. Determined to survive, she quickly thinks of a plan. She remembers that she has memorized the entire layout of the palace. Using that knowledge, she escapes through a hidden vent that leads into the garden, thinking no one will find her there. As she runs, she wonders if she is doomed to live the rest of her life running away. All she ever wanted was for this new life to be different. She starts to remember her past life, how she was always blamed for things that were not her fault. After losing her parents and escaping from abusive relatives, she ended up drowning in debt, which made her life feel suffocating. That is why, in this new life, all she wanted was something simple and good. Even though she was reborn as a small villain, she believed she could change her fate because she knew the story. But now she feels like it is impossible to fight destiny, like she is stuck in the same painful cycle no matter what. Even in a new body, she is still the same person. She bitterly thinks that the only advantage of this body is that she can end everything without feeling pain. Back at the castle, the Duke returns and is welcomed by his servants. One of them informs him that the Viscount and his wife are waiting to see him. Tired and drained, the Duke tries to delay the meeting, but a knight suddenly tells him that the little girl is missing. The knight explains that the child who claimed to know the young lady's location has disappeared. A maid adds that she vanished right after hearing that the daughter was not found at the orphanage and that a bottle was discovered in the storage room. The Duke immediately recognizes the bottle as a suicide poison used by the Bose family. He becomes confused about why such a thing would be there. He then remembers Aisha's words, how she called him her savior, and trusted him. The Viscount suggests that they should start searching for her. Feeling a sudden sense of urgency, the Duke rushes out, realizing he must find her before the poison takes effect. He begins searching everywhere, calling out her name. He worries that she may have left the castle after drinking the poison. As he searches, he thinks about how even though she was a spy, she was so desperate to live that she trusted her life to him, her enemy. He realizes that if she chose to use poison just because his daughter was not there, then she never meant to deceive him from the beginning. He starts to understand that Duke Bose must have moved his daughter after Aisha escaped from his territory. He calls out her name again, imagining how terrified she must have been. He wonders if she has lost her will to live, just like he once did, and drank the poison. But then he shakes his head, telling himself that cannot be true. She is just a small, clumsy child. He remembers how scared she was, yet how bravely she still made a deal with him. He recalls how she smiled with relief after their agreement, and how happy he felt that she finally found a way to survive. He begins to blame himself, asking what he has done after she trusted him with her life. He reminds himself that she is only 5 years old. The thought that she might have chosen death out of fear of being executed fills him with regret. He quietly apologizes to her from his heart. Just then, he hears a faint voice call out, "Sir." He quickly turns around, searching for the source. He calls her name, hoping she is there. Aisha's voice reaches him as she apologizes, admitting that she almost ended her life because of all her mistakes. She confesses her fear and says that more than anything, she still wants to live. The Duke quietly tells himself that he wants to live too. Even if there are many reasons to give up, he feels like he has finally found a reason to keep going by protecting this child. He reaches out his hand toward her and tells her to grab it because the place is dangerous. Aisha hesitates and says that if he helps her, he will also be dragged into trouble. He feels surprised that even in this state, she is still worried about him and wonders what pushed her into such deep despair. He gently tells her she did nothing wrong and that all the blame belongs to the adults who made mistakes. He admits his feelings may be selfish, but asks her to give him a chance to make things right. He takes her hand firmly and tells her not to let go, to hold on tightly. He pulls her out from the vent and hugs her close. Aisha quietly thinks that the Duke is her savior, but he corrects her. He tells her she is wrong and that the one who was truly saved was himself. Not long after, Aisha wakes up from a dream, one of the first beautiful dreams she has had in a long time. In the dream, her parents from her past life were singing her a lullaby, but suddenly it turned into something dark, where she found herself asking her mother where the young lady was. She wakes up breathing hard and realizes she is in an unfamiliar room. The place looks like a noble's bedroom. A familiar voice tells her she was sweating a lot in her sleep, and she recognizes it as him. She looks up and is shocked to see his face without the mask. He looks calm and handsome as he smiles and tells her it is time to eat breakfast. She remembers that he found her in the sewage area and wonders why he has not handed her over yet. She realizes that in the eyes of the Crust family, she should be seen as a dangerous spy. She nervously asks where she is. He calmly tells her they should eat first and talk later. After they finish eating, she gathers her courage and asks when she will be taken away. He gently tells her that will not happen because he has already destroyed the contract. She becomes confused and panics, wondering if he has run away with her. Instead, he shows her a document. It is the adoption request she once asked for. He reminds her that she said she needed a guardian and asks her to become his daughter. She stares at him in confusion, so he tells her to read the paper herself. She slowly asks if it is really okay for her to become his daughter, and he calmly answers that he has no reason to lie to a child. She begins to worry that he might become a fugitive because of her, and she does not want to lose the first adult who truly cared for her. He asks her why she is hesitating. She thanks him for protecting her, but says she does not want to drag him into trouble. He tells her not to worry about the Crust family and admits that he knows she is not an ordinary child, but he is more than capable of handling everything. He then calls the servants, and they quickly respond, addressing him as Your Highness. The servants are shocked to see him without his mask for the first time in years. In that moment, Aisha connects everything together. The mask, the grand room, and the way the servants act. The truth hits her all at once. The Duke formally announces that from today onward, the young lady of House Crust will be Aisha Crossed. She stands frozen in shock as she realizes that the man she knew as the gardener is actually Duke Crew himself. He repeats the announcement to the servants and orders them to treat her with full respect. Aisha remains stunned, unable to believe that the kind man she trusted is the Duke. He asks if there is a problem or if she has changed her mind about the adoption. As she thinks back, she realizes there were many strange signs she ignored. Even though he claimed to be just a gardener, he allowed a spy like her to recover freely and no one questioned him. She blames herself for not seeing the truth sooner. She feels frustrated, thinking that after everything she did, she still ended up becoming Duke Crust's adopted daughter, just like in the original story. But then she realizes something has changed. The man standing before her is not the cold villain from the story, but someone who truly cares for her more than anyone else ever has. She finally accepts his offer. The Duke smiles and says he is looking forward to it as well. With that decision, Aisha's adoption shakes the quiet castle, which had been silent for 5 long years, and throws everything into complete chaos. The maids gather together, whispering and blushing as they admire the Duke's handsome face for the first time. They wonder why he ever chose to hide it behind a mask. Some of the servants quietly question his decision to adopt a child they believe is a liar, while others assume his thinking has become unclear because he still misses his real daughter. The headmaid quickly steps in and shuts them all down, reminding them that their duty is to follow the Duke's orders no matter what. She tells everyone to stop gossiping and return to their work. In the Duke's office, the assistant asks how the child is doing. The Duke answers that Aisha is fine, but then asks why he is bringing it up. The assistant looks at him and asks if there is anything the Duke wants to say first. The Duke realizes that his assistant is referring to the matter of his daughter, and the assistant makes a sarcastic remark, saying anyone would think Aisha is his real child. The Duke calmly replies that adopting a stray child is not a big matter, since this is not the first time he has taken in an orphan. The assistant admits that Aisha is clever and obedient, but points out that a child with no clear past, claiming to know the location of the young lady, is very suspicious. He reminds the Duke that the girl was not found at the place she mentioned, suggesting that everything might have been a lie from the beginning. The Duke's expression hardens as he warns his assistant, Knox, to be careful with his words. Knox, however, insists that he must speak the truth. He reminds the Duke about the spy they captured and the strange actions coming from the kingdom of Doktia. He explains that the kingdom has always desired the Duke's power, and that if house crew had not been protecting the land from monsters, they would have invaded long ago. He asks the Duke to think calmly, but the Duke questions if Knox is doubting his judgment. Knox suggests that Aisha should be sent to an orphanage or adopted by another noble family, as they have done many times before. The Duke firmly refuses, saying that Aisha is already his daughter, and that the adoption papers have been signed. Knox reminds him of the many children who tried to deceive him after his family disappeared, and asks why this particular child is different. He adds that he does not believe the Duke's decision is driven by simple pity. The Duke answers quietly that he had no other choice but to save that child. When Knox asks him to explain, the Duke tells him that he spent his whole life protecting his home and his family. Yet all he has left now is a meaningless title, and he has grown tired. He says that child appeared before him like a form of salvation and asks Knox to trust him just this once. After a moment of silence, Knox finally agrees, but makes one request. He asks the Duke to promise that if Aisha is truly deceiving him and becomes a threat to House Crust, he must be ready to let her go without hesitation. Later, Aisha notices Sir Knox and decides to try to get closer to him, knowing he is important to the Duke. She greets him brightly, but Knox responds coldly, which makes her feel a little hurt. She sighs, expecting such a reaction after being called a liar. Even though she is used to people looking down on her, it still stings. She quietly encourages herself to try harder, reminding herself that the Duke is on her side. She then runs to the Duke's room, and he asks why she came. She tells him she felt bored and lonely and has something important to show him. She hands him a biscuit with strange markings on it. As he looks closer, he realizes it is actually a coded message from the Bose Duchy. Aisha explains that they train mice to nibble on biscuits in specific shapes to form letters. Once the message is read, the biscuit is destroyed, so there is no evidence left behind. She goes on to explain that Duke Bose and his spies use very precise methods to communicate. A spy writes a report on their clothing and sends it to a hidden base that looks like a repair shop. On the other side, Duke Bo sends messages using trained mice that carry the information through hidden paths. Because of this careful system, Duke Bose has been able to survive for so long without being exposed. The Duke reads the message carefully. It confirms that the adoption mission has been completed and gives new instructions to focus on the upcoming heir selection test. As Aisha reads it too, she is shocked to see that Dorothy has been eliminated. In that moment, she realizes that this is the true fate of a spy who fails their mission. For a moment, Aisha is reminded of the cruel truth she almost forgot because of the kindness the Sir showed her. Even though Dorothy was not a good person, Aisha realizes she is now the only one left who even remembers her existence. The Duke suddenly asks in a sharp voice if she is saying that the telegram was sent directly to her from the Bose Duchy. Aisha feels a chill, realizing she may have revealed too much. She understands that mentioning the heir will affect him deeply. She remembers that choosing a successor for the Duke was a very important part of the original story. She silently blames herself for not thinking about his feelings, especially since he had only just lost hope of finding his daughter. The Duke crushes the biscuit in his hand in anger, wondering how such a message could be meant for a 5-year-old child. Aisha notices how upset he is and realizes his reaction is stronger than she expected. Without saying more, the Duke calls for the headmaid, May. He tells her to watch over Aisha for a moment and asks her to call Knox. As Aisha watches him, she can see the anger in his face and starts to wonder if everything will be all right. But at the same time, she feels strangely happy, remembering how he became angry because of her. That feeling fills her with joy. Still, she tells herself she cannot keep depending on him forever. She wants to become someone he can also depend on. As May prepares to leave, Aisha thinks about how she must first fix her image as a liar. She believes that if she continues to approach May with kindness, maybe one day she will accept her. She offers to share her cake, saying it is too much for her to eat alone. May refuses without hesitation, so Aisha offers her other sweets that the Duke gave her. May coldly tells her that she does not need to force herself to get close to them. She explains that none of the servants want to be near someone like her, someone who failed to keep her promise about finding the young lady. Even after hearing that, Aisha simply smiles and tells her they can eat together next time. For a brief moment, May hesitates, but then she turns and leaves, leaving Aisha alone once again. At the same time, in the Duke's office, the Duke speaks to Knox with clear disappointment. He tells him that the maid who attempted the assassination has died in the underground prison. He questions how such a thing could happen when he had given strict orders for close watch. Knox explains that both an investigator and a knight were sent to guard her. But when they arrived, the maid was already dead. He adds that there were signs she struggled before dying, and that the investigator also took his own life. The Duke then shifts the conversation to the upcoming heir selection test. He notes that the atmosphere within House Crust has been unstable lately. He orders Knox to strengthen security and keep a close watch on Aisha at all times. He also announces that during the heir selection test, he plans to officially introduce Aisha to everyone. Later, he tells Aisha directly about his plan. She is surprised, so he reminds her that she is now an official member of House Crust. She quietly points out that she does not have any ice abilities. The narration explains that mastering the ice power is very important for passing the 3 heir trials. Normally, only direct members of the Crust family become heirs, but since the Duke's family is gone, no one currently holds that position. The Duke explains that his goal is simply to publicly declare that she is his daughter. He believes that the traditional family event is the perfect chance to do this. Once it is done, no one will dare treat her poorly anymore. Aisha wonders if he has noticed how she has been quietly avoided by others. Still, she tells herself that she is fine as long as he is by her side. She thanks him sincerely, realizing that having him there is already more than enough. He then tells her that he will be leaving the next day to deal with monsters in the north, and that she should go to Knox if she needs anything. Aisha notices his heavy outfit and understands that she will be on her own for a while. The Duke jokingly adds that if Knox gives her trouble, he will pretend not to see anything if she hits him on the head. Knox looks shocked and confused, wondering why he would allow a child to do that. The Duke simply asks Knox to follow him for a quick meeting before leaving. Knox sighs and agrees, even though he does not fully accept the situation. The next day, the Duke heads north to fight the monsters, and Nox keeps a close watch on Aisha, staying near her at all times. Nox quietly wonders out loud if all children walk like little ducks, or if it is just her. May calmly answers that it is normal for someone her age, and adds that recent studies say small creatures look cute as a way to protect themselves from danger. Nox continues thinking out loud, saying that they use that cuteness to make others like them and keep them safe. Aisha listens and thinks to herself that she can hear everything he is saying. She remembers how she once thought he was a strict and serious man, but now she is starting to see that he is actually quite strange. A maid suddenly rushes into the room and calls out for Sir Knox. He asks why she is in such a hurry, and she tells him that Marquis Lillis has arrived without any notice. Aisha hears this and quietly wonders who that person is. It turns out that Marquis Lillis is the head of a branch family of the Crust family and is known for being flashy and very different from the usual serious nature of the main house. Knox quickly tells the maid to ask the Marquis to come back another time, feeling suspicious about his sudden visit. But before anything can be done, the Marquis appears on his own, smiling and saying he was just passing by. Aisha quietly thinks he is probably taking advantage of the Duke not being around. Knox tells him that the Duke is out dealing with monsters, but the Marquis pretends not to know, which clearly annoys Knox. Aisha starts thinking it might be better to leave and avoid the tension between them, so she turns to go back to her room. But suddenly, a boy named Tex bumps into her, causing her to fall. Knox quickly moves to check if she is okay, and she tells him she is fine. Tex, however, rudely asks who allowed them to block his way. He looks down at his clothes, now dirty, and assumes Aisha is just some rude child. Aisha decides it is better to apologize instead of arguing. So she says sorry and explains that she was not paying attention. Tex angrily says that an apology is not enough and demands that she kneel if she is truly sorry. As he continues to make a scene, Knox steps forward and reminds Lord Tex that Aisha is now the direct heir and the young lady of the Crust Duchy. Tex laughs at this and calls her a useless child. Aisha remembers that in the original story, Tex Lelis was supposed to be the next heir. Tex recognizes her from rumors and tells her she will never become the heir. He mocks her, saying the family does not need someone who cannot even use ice powers. Aisha calmly fires back, saying he does not look like someone fit to be an heir either. This angers Tex even more, and he steps toward her in a threatening way, saying he will show her what real power is. He suddenly launches an ice attack, forcing Knox to step in quickly and block it to protect her. Tex smirks and asks if she still thinks he is nothing after seeing his strength. Aisha quietly thinks that people respect the Duke because he uses his power to protect others, not to bully them. She tells Tex that anyone who uses strength to threaten others has no character and does not deserve to be an heir. Knox shouts firmly for Tex to stop and warns him that he will face consequences if he continues trying to harm the young lady. As Knox steps forward, a strong presence fills the air, making it clear he is serious. Just then, the Marquis steps in with a mocking tone, making a comment about Knox's loyalty. He coldly says that once his son becomes the heir, he will personally correct the behavior of the Duke's followers. Knox only gives a sharp smile and says he will remember those words. After that, the Marquis and his son leave, calling Knox rude as they go. Knox then tells a maid to take Aisha back to her room. As she walks away, Aisha notices a pen lying on the ground. She picks it up and sees the name Luce written on it. Back in her room, she begins to think deeply. She remembers that the Duke once had a family of 5, but now only he remains. She recalls that the second son, Lucas, was later found in a circus after being taken by a slave trader. Suddenly, everything connects in her mind. That slave trader's name was Luce. She begins to suspect that the Marquis's ambition may be tied to the kidnapping of the Duke's children. She comes to the conclusion that Marquis Lillis is either Luce himself or someone working closely with him. She thinks back to her original plan of telling the Duke where his missing children are, but she hesitates. Her last information about his daughter turned out to be wrong, and now she is afraid. She feels that if she makes another mistake, it will not just mean being thrown out, it will mean breaking the Duke's heart all over again. But then she remembers how kind he has been to her, and how deeply he misses his real children. That thought gives her strength. She decides to push past her fear and do everything she can for him. Meanwhile, Knox is still upset about how rude the Marquis was. He admits to himself that Aisha handled the situation better than he expected. He starts to wonder if the Duke saw something special in her that could help him move forward. He quietly hopes that maybe this child could help the Duke overcome the pain of losing his children. Just then, a strange noise in his office catches his attention. He looks around and finds a mouse. He finds it odd that a mouse would be inside the castle and notices small footprints on the ground. Suddenly, he remembers the Duke's warning that both spies use mice to pass messages. His expression darkens as he connects this to the spy they caught earlier. He realizes there may still be another spy inside. His thoughts quickly turn to Aisha, and he feels foolish for trusting her. He follows the tiny tracks all the way to Aisha's room and bursts inside. He confronts her with anger, demanding to know what she was writing. At the same time, far away, the Duke is in the middle of his mission when he receives an urgent message from Knox. Without hesitation, he orders a portal to be opened so he can return immediately. The message claims that Aisha was caught sending information to Duke Bose and is heading to a meeting point. Back at the castle, Knox is seen leading Aisha toward a carriage, his face full of anger. In a flashback, it is revealed that Aisha knew her situation was limited with the Duke away. She made a bold choice to use Knox, knowing he was always watching her closely. She understood that after what happened with Dorothy, he would be very alert to spy tricks. She believed he was the only one who could act properly in place of the Duke. We return to the moment Knox confronted her. He reads the message she wrote, which sets a meeting at the O'Hilly Circus. He immediately recognizes it as a common move used by both spies, exactly as Aisha planned. Knox declares that they will go to that circus together on the chosen day. In the carriage, Aisha thinks to herself that if she fails to find Lucas, she can always pretend it was all a joke. She notices Knox sitting beside her in complete silence, still clearly angry. His silence feels even more frightening than shouting. She tells herself she must accept his anger because she used him for what she believes is the right reason. When they finally arrive at the crowded circus, Aisha recognizes it immediately as the place mentioned in the original story. She believes that Lucas, with his strong powers, would be treated as valuable merchandise. She remembers that the circus is only a cover for illegal activities like kidnapping and trafficking. Knox struggles to move through the thick crowd, and Aisha sees her chance. She decides to slip away from him, knowing she cannot act freely if she stays by his side. Ignoring his calls, she moves deeper into the chaos, focused only on finding Lucas. She tells herself that saving him is the most important thing right now. She reasons that someone as powerful as Lucas would be kept somewhere hidden, far from the public. To reach that place, she comes up with a dangerous idea. She decides to pretend to be merchandise herself so she can get inside. But the moment she tries, she is caught. Thinking quickly, she acts like a lost child in front of two masked men, saying her parents are looking for her. One of the men offers to take her to the staff area and asks what her parents look like. Aisha describes them as rich people dressed in expensive clothes, hoping to make herself seem valuable. She knows that in her fine clothes, she would look like a perfect target for kidnappers. Even though she understands how risky this is, she knows she has no other choice. The man takes the bait and tells her to follow him, clearly thinking he has found something valuable. As she walks with them, she overhears them talking about an important visitor who is expected to arrive after the event. Their conversation about checking some merchandise catches Aisha's attention. When she hears them mention Duke Bose, she realizes they are being extra careful because of his orders. Everything suddenly makes sense to her. Duke Bose is behind all of this. The thought scares her deeply, because if he is personally involved, then her entire plan could fall apart. Before she can think any further, one of the men suddenly hits her from behind. As pain rushes through her, memories from her harsh training come flooding back. She remembers how they raised her from birth to be loyal only to Duke Bose. She remembers the oath she took to give everything to him, even her own life. As her vision fades, she wonders if she will ever be free from his control. When she wakes up, she sees a young boy staring at her. For a moment she thinks it is the Duke, but then she notices his blue eyes and black hair. He looks just like a smaller version of Duke Crow. She immediately knows it is Lucas. Relief fills her heart because she finally found him. She thinks that now everything will be easy. Lucas asks her how she ended up in such a place. She quickly lies and says she got lost, not wanting to make him suspicious. He coldly tells her that the only way out is if her parents are rich enough to buy her freedom. He then reveals that he has been trapped there for 5 years. That confirms it for her, since the timing matches when the second son disappeared. She quickly suggests that she can free him so they can escape together. He laughs at her and says she is wasting her time, but she insists she can do it. He explains that the chains holding him are not ordinary ones. They were specially made by the Bose family to suppress powers. Aisha does not hesitate. She remembers how she was trained to break chains like these under pressure. She recalls her instructor threatening her life if she could not break them in seconds. With one swift move, she breaks the chains, leaving Lucas completely shocked. He stares at her and accuses her of being sent by Duke Bose. Aisha panics and quickly denies it. He questions how she could break the chains if she was not one of Bose's people. She realizes she made a mistake when she accidentally calls him by his name. His expression turns cold as he mocks her, saying Bose must have sent a child after all the adults who tried to break him before. He openly calls her a spy, and she strongly denies it. In her mind, she hears her instructor's voice, reminding her that she can never escape her past. She thinks about how everyone around her has always known who she really is, but then she remembers Duke Crow, who trusted her and called her his daughter. Taking a deep breath, she admits to Lucas that she was once a spy, but it was not her choice. She explains that she was abandoned at birth and forced into that life. She tells him how much she struggled to escape that painful path. She says she was saved by kind people and learned about him while she was still with Bose. She explains that she believed he would also want to escape and return home. She promises to take him back to his father and asks him to run away with her. But Lucas refuses. He says he does not trust anyone anymore except himself. His anger builds up as he releases his ice power, furious that his father never came to save him in all those years. With a powerful strike, he breaks the wall and creates a way out, leaving her behind. Aisha feels helpless as she watches him go. She knows he thinks she is still part of Bose's side, and she fears what might happen if he meets Nox in this state. The building begins to collapse from the impact of Lucas's power. Aisha struggles through the falling debris and manages to crawl out. As she does, she thinks that Lucas is softer than he tries to appear. She notices that his ice power weakened the restraints around her, making it easier for her to break free. She feels amazed by his strength, knowing it is far greater than anything Tex showed earlier. Realizing the danger, she decides she must find him before he runs into Nox and causes a disaster. As she moves forward, she suddenly hears a soft sound and finds a small kitten trapped nearby. At the same time, Lucas walks alone, thinking about how strange it feels after being trapped for so long. He cannot stop thinking about Aisha's words. He begins to wonder if she was telling the truth, if she really was forced into that life. He compares her struggle to his own 5 years of waiting for his father to come for him. Lucas begins to realize that unlike him, she never gave up. A wave of regret hits him as he remembers how harsh he was to her. He thinks he should have listened to her more. Then he wonders why she has not escaped yet, only to be shocked when he sees her trying to save a small kitten. He cannot believe she is risking her life for something so tiny in such a dangerous place. He watches her closely, confused about what kind of person she really is. In the end, he walks back toward her. Aisha is surprised to see him again, but he angrily asks why she is still here. She simply says it is because of the cat. He calls her an idiot, but suddenly his expression changes as he notices danger. Aisha sees the fear on his face and turns around just in time to spot a masked man attacking. She quickly shouts to warn Lucas. At the same time, somewhere else, Nox is dealing with the kidnappers who are demanding 5,000 gold coins. As he listens, he realizes that the people he met earlier are not Aisha's allies at all. A small smile forms on his face as he understands he is dealing with ordinary criminals. Suddenly, a man rushes in and reports that their top merchandise has gone out of control. The word merchandise catches Nox's attention. He senses a strong and familiar power coming from the chaos. His heart races as he realizes it must be the special ice power of the Crust family. He begins to wonder if the missing young master is really here. When he reaches the source, he does not hesitate and sends a message to the Duke. Soon, Knox is surrounded by masked men, but he stands calm. The kidnappers laugh and decide to attack him. As they rush in, Knox closes his eyes, frustrated by the situation. But suddenly, the attackers are frozen by a powerful ice attack. They notice the Duke's banner and immediately realize they have no chance. Duke Crow has arrived. Without wasting time, he asks Knox where Aisha is. Knox points toward a nearby door, trying to warn him that Aisha is a spy. But the Duke cuts him off and says he will decide her fate himself. Knox stays silent and follows his order. The Duke forcefully breaks the door open and steps into a dark room. What he sees stops him in his tracks. Lucas is standing there, holding an unconscious Aisha in his arms. The Duke feels confused and pained, wondering why Aisha is here in such a state when she should have been safe at the castle. Before he can move closer, Lucas quickly raises an ice barrier and warns him not to come any closer. Lucas studies him carefully and asks if he is Duke Crew. Knox watches in shock, starting to believe that this boy is truly the lost young master. Lucas's anger spills out as he blames his father for making him wait for 5 long years while he was busy fighting monsters. He refuses to listen when the Duke tries to speak, saying he does not want excuses or regrets. Tears fall from his eyes as he begs his father to at least save the injured girl. The Duke stands there, looking at his son who is pleading for Aisha's life. Back at the castle, May, the head maid, speaks with another maid about how Aisha has been gone since the day before. She believes that leaving with Sir Knox means something serious has happened. She admits she still finds it hard to accept Aisha, even though the Duke forgave her lies. She remembers that he was not the only one who loved the missing children. All the servants cared for them deeply, raising them like their own. Those happy days did not last. She recalls the moment they learned that the Duchess and the young masters had disappeared. The shock was overwhelming. An entire family vanished without a trace overnight. For years, everyone searched with no results, living in quiet despair. And then, in the middle of all that pain, Aisha appeared, almost as if she was taking their place. Thinking about it now, May begins to soften. She realizes Aisha is just a 5-year-old child. She decides to prepare her meal like usual and asks for the strawberries Aisha likes. Just then, a maid rushes in with urgent news. She announces that the Duke has returned with the second young master. But her voice trembles as she adds that Lady Aisha is badly injured. At that moment, the doctor speaks with a heavy tone and tells the Duke that the young lady has passed away. The Duke stands frozen, unable to accept what he just heard. Suddenly, Lucas runs in, shouting in disbelief. He refuses to accept the truth, saying she was just talking to him moments ago before they arrived. The doctor quietly explains that the young lady did not want to worry the young master. He believes she knew her condition was serious, but still acted normal just for Lucas. Hearing that, Lucas shouts in denial, begging Aisha to open her eyes. The Duke stands there, remembering how for 5 long years he imagined meeting his children again. He had thought about how they were living, how emotional their reunion would be. He never once imagined it would end like this. The doctor tries to calm Lucas, who refuses to leave Aisha's side. The Duke feels the weight of failure as a father once again. Unable to hold it in, he releases his grief and anger in a powerful burst of ice that freezes the surroundings. He orders everyone to leave as he stays behind. Standing next to Aisha's frozen body, days pass and the servants whisper among themselves. They talk about how the Duke has kept the room frozen and about how Aisha gave her life to save Lucas. One servant quietly says that the atmosphere in the duchy feels darker and more frightening than ever. Knox approaches the Duke and informs him that an official letter has arrived from the Imperial Palace, asking when the monster subjugation will resume. The Duke ignores it and instead asks Knox if he has found a way to save Aisha. Knox realizes that the Duke is holding on to an impossible hope because of guilt. Deep inside, Knox admits that Aisha was never fully accepted by the staff, and that same guilt affected everyone. He blames himself for doubting the Duke and refusing to trust the child. He comes to believe that Aisha pushed herself this far because she felt guilty for failing to find the daughter, and because she was hurt by not being accepted. As Knox promises to keep searching for a solution, the Duke suddenly coughs up blood. Knox is shocked and rushes to support him. He realizes the Duke has not slept since that day and tries to calm him, saying he needs to call a doctor. The Duke curses himself, asking what kind of hero he is if he cannot protect the people he cares about. He admits that he feels completely useless. At the same time, Lucas walks through the halls holding a small bouquet of flowers. A servant asks where he is going, and the maid quietly realizes that he is heading back to that room again. Lucas enters and stands beside Aisha's frozen bed. He gently places the flowers and speaks to her, refusing to believe she is gone. He asks her when she will wake up and tells her that everyone is searching for a way to help her. He asks her to wait just a little longer. Before leaving, he softly wishes her good night and begs her to wake up and talk to him again. On the balcony, a white cat appears and watches the scene in silence. The cat looks at Aisha's still body and wonders if she is truly gone. It reflects on how it has seen death many times in its long life. To it, the deaths of animals and monsters never meant anything. They all felt the same. But then it remembers Aisha, a small and fragile human who tried to protect it and collapsed while saving someone stronger than herself. At first, the cat thought she was foolish. But when it saw her face at that moment, its thoughts changed. It felt like she was silently telling the world not to give up and to keep living. The cat feels curious and wants to understand why she had that look in her eyes. Since it does not like leaving things unanswered, it decides to enter her body to find out. It quietly says goodbye to Aisha, promising they will meet again, and its spirit moves into her. Aisha then finds herself in a strange dream. Shadows surround her and call her name. She stands alone in darkness as a terrifying smile with sharp teeth appears. She remembers a hand reaching toward her and someone thanking her. A mysterious boy speaks, telling her she will understand everything soon before saying goodbye. Suddenly, she wakes up. She hears the doctor and the Duke talking about asking the royal family for help. She sees the Duke standing nearby and softly calls out to him. As she fully wakes, she looks around in confusion, trying to understand what happened. Lucas rushes to her and hugs her tightly, asking if she is all right. The doctor stands there in shock, calling it a miracle because her heart had truly stopped. He confirms that, aside from some injuries, her body is in good condition. Aisha sits there, trying to make sense of everything, wondering if she really died and somehow came back. As her strange dream lingers in her mind, she quietly wonders if that strange dream had something to do with the real Aisha before she took over the body. She keeps thinking about the mysterious boy she saw and who he could be. In the end, she decides not to tell the Duke about it, not wanting to make him worry any more than he already has. Instead, she smiles and tells everyone she feels completely fine. In fact, she feels even better than before. The Duke, however, firmly warns her never to do anything so reckless again. As she looks at him closely, she notices how pale he looks and how much thinner he has become. She also sees the worry still on Lucas and Knox's faces. Realizing she caused all of them so much fear again, she promises the Duke she will not cause any more trouble. The doctor insists she must rest for a full week, and Lucas quickly volunteers to take care of her. Later, she sits quietly with him, noticing that he looks like he wants to say something but cannot bring himself to speak. To break the silence, she asks about the flowers in the vase. Lucas admits he was the one who brought them. Aisha finds it strange that he brought dandelion seeds instead of proper flowers, and Lucas explains that it is because her hair reminds him of soft dandelion fluff. He then asks her directly if she was truly adopted by the Duke, and she confirms it. She realizes this must have been the question on his mind all along, but the chaos at the circus never gave him the chance to ask. She understands why he feels upset. While he was trapped and suffering, she was living as the Duke's adopted daughter. She can tell that he still feels abandoned, and that must hurt deeply. But then Lucas surprises her by suggesting that she should call him Big Brother now, instead of using his name, since she is his younger sister. He admits that at first he was angry about her adoption because he felt like he had been replaced. Still, he says he does not want to take away the happiness she finally found. He tells her he has decided to accept her as family, and even calls her his savior. He then asks if she does not want to be part of his family, which makes her panic as she quickly denies it. In her mind, she feels a bit embarrassed, since she used to be an adult, and calling him big brother feels strange. Lucas misunderstands her hesitation and thinks she doubts him. He promises that he will prove he can be a good brother. Aisha realizes he took it the wrong way, so instead of explaining, she asks him for a favor. She asks him to read her a fairy tale book. He looks confused and asks why, but suddenly stops, making her worry that something is wrong. At that moment, the doctor enters and says visiting time is over. As Lucas leaves, Aisha softly calls out, "Brother Lucas," which makes him blush as he walks away. She smiles to herself, realizing that even though he tries to act mature, he is still just a child. When Lucas steps outside, he is surprised to see the Duke standing quietly in the dark. The Duke simply looks at him calmly without saying a word. Aisha senses that the distance between father and son is still very wide, and she thinks they will need more time to understand each other again. Soon after, the Duke enters her room to check on her. She calls him uncle, and he smiles with relief, happy to see her recovering well. Aisha thinks about how glad she is that Lucas is safe, but she also feels guilty for almost leaving a deep wound in his heart. She explains that she did not want to disappoint him by giving uncertain information. The Duke gently takes her hand and pulls her into a warm hug, thanking her sincerely for finding Lucas. He also apologizes deeply for putting her in danger once again. Aisha reassures him that she is fine and suggests that he should spend time talking with Lucas to fix things between them. Their conversation is interrupted by a knock at the door. Sir Knox and May, the head maid, enter the room. May politely asks if she can speak with Aisha for a moment. Both Knox and May bow deeply, apologizing for their poor judgment and admitting that their actions caused her pain. Knox openly admits that he doubted her from the beginning, especially after they failed to find the young lady. He now accepts that he was wrong, especially after she risked her life to save Lucas. He says that if they had trusted her even a little, she would not have been placed in such danger. Knox lowers his head and takes full responsibility, saying that her injuries are his fault for sending her to the circus based on a suspicious report. He sincerely apologizes for not being someone she could rely on while the Duke was away. The Duke looks surprised to hear even May, the head maid, offering an apology. May slowly recalls how she turned Aisha away earlier when she tried to invite her for tea. She admits that she spoke harshly and told Aisha that no servant wanted to be close to someone they saw as a liar. Her voice softens as she confesses her regret, realizing now that she was only taking out her pain over the missing young masters on a small child. She explains how her heart sank the moment she heard Aisha was badly injured. No matter how late it was, she felt she had to come and apologize. With her head lowered, she accepts whatever punishment the Duke decides. The Duke listens to both Knox and May with a serious expression. Before he can respond, Aisha speaks up. She gently tells them that they only acted the way they did because they were worried about the Duke. She points out that it is never easy to speak kindly when emotions are involved, especially when it comes to someone they care about deeply. She smiles and says she is fine, adding that she feels happy knowing the Duke is surrounded by such loyal people. She admits that she was hurt at first, but she truly appreciates their honest apology. Hearing this, the Duke gives an order. He tells Knox and May that from now on, they must address her as young lady, instead of just calling her by name. Then he tells them to leave, saying he will speak to them about this matter later. Once they are gone, the Duke turns back to Aisha and admits that he expected the servants would not accept her right away. He explains that he chose to watch from a distance because he wanted her to earn their respect on her own, not through his authority. He adds that respect gained by power alone has no real meaning, and he believes she was strong enough to overcome the situation. Still, he calls himself foolish for allowing her to face everything alone. He gently tells her that if anything ever troubles her again, she should come to him instead of carrying the burden by herself. Aisha smiles brightly and agrees. Outside the room, May anxiously hopes that Aisha will not be scolded. Knox reassures her, pointing out that they cannot hear any shouting from inside. May then speaks with admiration, saying the young lady's wisdom surprised her completely. Knox agrees and admits that as adults, they should feel ashamed for taking so long to understand their mistake. He then asks May what the young lady likes, saying he wants to make it up to her properly. Meanwhile, in another place, Tex collapses from exhaustion after using his ice powers. His father, the Marquis, looks down at him and tells him that during the heir selection ceremony, he must put Aisha in her place. Tex complains that the medicine that gives him his power is running out. The Marquis grabs him firmly and tells him that this is their only chance to rise, especially now that the Duke's direct family line has been broken. He warns his son not to repeat his mother's mistake, hinting at a past failure where his name was not accepted as a true heir. It is revealed that Tex's ice powers do not come naturally, but from pills that temporarily grant him that ability. The Marquis believes that with these pills, taking control of the Crust family will be easy. He sees Aisha as an obstacle, but believes Tex is their best chance, since he is the only one showing power right now. With a serious expression, the Marquis decides to meet a certain man to get more of the medicine, knowing they only have enough to last 1 week before the heir selection begins.